They called the cops on me for trespassing on my own land. Can you believe that? I stood there, hands slightly trembling but jaw tight, staring down the smug-faced woman in the blue pantsuit Karen, the HOA president. Her lips were pursed like she'd sucked a lemon, voice shrill and cutting as she pointed at me. He doesn't belong here. This is private HOA property. I almost laughed, but all I managed was a low sigh as I looked around at the familiar trees, the old surveyor's stake still half-buried near the gravel path, and the edge of the boundary line I'd memorized from a map years ago. No, this wasn't private HOA property. This was mine, bought and paid for in 2018. Deeded, recorded, undisputed until now. Blue and red lights flashed behind me as a sheriff's cruiser rolled up. Just perfect. Sir, we got a report of someone threatening HOA staff, the deputy said as he stepped out, palm resting casually on his holster. I raised my hand slowly, shaking my head. Not threatening anyone, just reclaiming my land. Karen folded her arms triumphantly, stepping forward like she owned the whole damn county. He barged into our HOA office, refused to leave, and now he's pretending it's his land. He's delusional. That was it. I pulled the folder out of my backpack, zip tight, tab dated. The deputy arched an eyebrow as I handed over a certified land deed, maps, and a fresh survey I had ordered just 2 weeks ago. There was silence, the kind of silence that vibrates with tension like a taut violin string about to snap. The deputy read through the paperwork carefully, slowly. Then he glanced up at Karen, his brows tightening. Ma'am, this says the structure your HOA is using as an office was built partially on this man's land. In fact, it looks like about 60% of it sits over the boundary. Karen's jaw dropped. That's impossible. We've used that building for years. Doesn't matter if you've used it since the dinosaurs, I said, my voice finally steady. You don't own the dirt underneath. I could hear someone gasp behind Karen, her assistant. Maybe the man who always stood around with his iPad and never made eye contact. He muttered, didn't the last board president buy the lot next door thinking it was part of this property? Boom. There it was. The twist. Karen spun around to glare at him. Shut up, Derek. But it was too late. By now, a small crowd of residents had gathered. HOA business spreads like wildfire in these communities. A few neighbors whispered, others just stared, some filmed. Of course they filmed. Karen always filmed everyone else finally. The camera was pointed at her. I stepped closer to the deputy and said quietly, I want them off my land, and I want a formal cease and desist. He nodded. That'll go through the county. But given the documents, you have grounds to file for removal or rent. Maybe even damages. Karen's face turned crimson. This is harassment. I'll file a lawsuit. I smiled. Go ahead. But I already did yesterday. Her eyes widened. What? Yeah. My attorney already filed the lawsuit. You'll be served tomorrow morning. You built your headquarters on private land without verifying the boundary. And then you called 911 on the owner. I let that hang in the air like a slow echo. Karen turned to the deputy, voice rising with panic. You just gonna let him do this? This is outrageous. He exhaled slowly. Ma'am, you may want to contact legal counsel. Because right now, you're the one trespassing. The murmur of the crowd turned into low chuckles and surprised gasps. One elderly neighbor clapped. Another muttered, well, I always said she was playing queen with someone else's castle. Karen stormed away, heels stomping like gunshots on the pavement. Dare tried to follow but tripped over the HO, a welcome mat ironic, considering it sat half over the line where my land began. I just stood there, watching the queen retreat, her fake crown crumbling in the dirt of reality. A week later, a giant banner stretched over the HOA building, closed pending legal review. I didn't even need to lift a finger again. County officials began an investigation into how the office was built without verified title. Turns out, the whole HOA had been operating under false zoning for over 6 years. One domino, then another. As for Karen, she tried to spin the story online, calling it a land dispute gone rogue. But once the documents were made public, let's just say she stopped posting. And the lawsuit? It's moving forward. quietly, carefully, with every legal thread pulling tighter around the mess she made. So next time someone tells you you don't belong, check the map. Check the law. Check the truth. Because sometimes the ground you're standing on is more powerful than anyone screaming from behind a fake desk. And if you like this story of sweet, bitter justice, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. You won't want to miss the full lawsuit fallout coming next.